In the warm heart of the Mbulu village, where the morning sun bathed the red soil with gold, lived a young woman named Ndali. She was known for her beauty, but even more for her kindness and humble heart. After her father passed away, Ndali had become the backbone of her home, helping her aging mother, Mama Adia, sell vegetables at the market. Every day, Ndali would rise with the crow of the rooster, tie her hair in a neat scarf, and carry baskets of cassava, okra, and garden eggs to the village square. Her laughter filled the air like birdsong, and many admired her for being cheerful despite her hardships. One Tuesday morning, the market buzzed with energy. Traders shouted prices, women bargained with joy, and children ran about with roasted groundnuts in hand. Just as the sun reached above the tallest iroko tree, a tall man appeared at the edge of the market. He wore a deep green robe, carried a carved wooden staff, and had a leather bag slung across his chest. His face was smooth, his voice deep and calm. He introduced himself as Kaloum, a traveling herbalist and healer. With polite smiles and clever words, he began speaking to the villagers about rare roots and powerful herbs that could cure diseases and bring good luck. People gathered, curious and impressed. But it was Ndali he seemed most drawn to. "You must be the daughter of Mama Adia," Kalume said, looking into her eyes. "You shine like the morning sun. Tell me, how do you grow such fine vegetables?" Ndali blushed and smiled. "We thank the rain and the land. It is the only blessing we know." Kaloum stayed by her stall the whole day, helping her customers, carrying her basket when it became heavy, and making jokes that made the women giggle. He even bought some bitter leaf, without bargaining, a rare thing in Mbulu. By the end of the day, Ndali's stall had sold out. As she prepared to leave, Kaloum spoke softly. "I know you're tired," he said, "but I have something to show you, a secret gift I carry for those with a kind heart. Meet me by the old mango tree near the forest just before sunset." Ndali hesitated. "Why not show me now?" Kaloum chuckled. "Ah, it is something that glows only in the evening light. Trust me, it is safe." That night, as they sat beside the cooking fire, Mama Adia spoke. "Ndali, who is this man you spent the whole day with?" "He says he is a healer, Mama," Ndali replied, stirring the soup. "He helped me sell everything. He is kind." Mama Adia paused, her face serious. "Kindness is good, but not every sweet voice is sent from heaven. If he's a stranger, then don't meet him alone. Men like that, who move from place to place, can vanish like smoke." Ndali nodded, but inside her heart, curiosity tugged at her. What harm could there be in meeting someone who had done nothing but help? As the sun dipped behind the hills, casting long shadows across the village, Ndali stepped quietly out of her compound, her scarf tied tight, her slippers soft, on the red soil. She walked toward the forest edge, where the old mango tree stood silent and tall. Kaloum was already waiting, smiling. Ndali stood a few steps away from Kaloum, her heart pounding like the village drum on festival morning. The forest behind him whispered with the sound of swaying, trees and crickets warming up for the night's chorus. She looked back toward the village path, still close enough to turn around, yet far enough that no one would hear her scream if anything went wrong. "You came," Kaloum said gently, stepping forward. "You are braver than most." "I didn't come for bravery," Ndali replied. "You said you had something to show me." Kaloum smiled and motioned toward the narrow trail behind him. "Not far, just a short walk into the forest." Ndali hesitated. The words of her mother rang again in her ears. Not every sweet voice is sent from heaven. Still, curiosity overruled caution. She nodded. The path was narrow, hemmed in by thick bushes and tall trees with roots that curled like sleeping snakes. Kaloum walked confidently, his carved staff tapping against the earth. Ndali kept close behind, alert, trying not to trip over the twisting roots. After about 10 minutes, they reached a small house built from mud bricks and palm leaves. A dim oil lamp burned at the entrance, casting flickering shadows across the doorway. The place smelled of herbs. Some she recognized, others she didn't. "Welcome," Kaloum said, pulling aside a beaded curtain. "This is my temporary home." Indali stepped in cautiously. Inside, dried leaves hung from the ceiling. Wooden shelves lined the walls, filled with jars of roots, powders, and carved bones. In the center sat a mat with 3 wooden stools, a clay pot, and 2 drinking gourds. Kaloum poured her water and handed her one. "From a fresh spring," he said, and Indali held the gourd but didn't drink. "So what did you bring me here to see?" Kaloum sat opposite her, his eyes calm. "You're not like other women I've met. You're pure-hearted. I can sense it. I've been searching for someone like you." Indali shifted uncomfortably. "For what?" "I want to share something with you. A gift," Kaloum said. He reached into a leather pouch and pulled out a small wooden carving of a lion with a gold bead in its mouth. "This is a talisman. It brings protection, wealth, and long life, but it only works if shared willingly with someone worthy." Indali looked at the object. It was beautiful, but something about it made her skin crawl. "Why me?" "Because you trusted me enough to come," Kaloum said, locking eyes with her. "Most would have run. You are different." Suddenly, the house felt smaller. The oil lamp flickered strangely. The shadows on the walls seemed to stretch like arms. Indali's stomach turned. She stood up. "It's getting late. My mother will worry." Kaloum rose slowly. "You're right. Let me walk you back." But as she stepped toward the door, Kaloum's hand gently caught her wrist. Not rough, just firm. "You should stay a little longer. There's more to show you." Fear surged through Indali's chest. She yanked her arm back and stepped away. "No, I want to go now." Kaloum looked at her, his face unreadable for a moment. Then he nodded. "As you wish," he said softly. They walked back to the edge of the forest in silence. When they reached the old mango tree, Indali turned to him. "Thank you for today," she said quickly. "But I don't think I'll be coming again." Kaloum only smiled. "We shall see." As Indali hurried home under the moonlight, she didn't look back. But deep inside, a seed of dread had been planted. By the time Indali reached home, the stars had begun to scatter across the dark sky like spilled cowrie shells. The compound was quiet, but Mama Adia sat by the fire, roasting maize slowly and humming an old folk tune. Indali greeted her softly and moved to enter the hut, but Mama Adia stopped humming. "You're late." "I know, Mama. I lost track of time." Mama looked up, her eyes sharp even in the low light. "Where were you?" Indali hesitated, then replied, "With the herbalist. He showed me some carvings and herbs." Mama's hand froze above the fire. "Indali, I told you not to go." "He didn't do anything," Indali said quickly. "He just talked. He seems nice?" Mama cut in. "That's how the devil comes, my daughter, with charm and honey in his voice." Indali said nothing. Mama Adia sighed. "There's a reason elders warn us about strangers. Men who come and go with no roots often carry secrets. Sleep now. We will talk in the morning." Indali curled up in bed, but sleep refused to come. Her mind replayed every detail: the carved lion, Kaloum's strange calmness, the shadows that danced longer than they should, and his words, "You are different." The next day, whispers fluttered through the market like dry leaves. Kaloum didn't open his stall today, one woman said. "I saw him going into the forest last night," another added. "My cousin said she saw a girl with him," a third whispered, glancing at Indali. Dolly kept her head down and focused on arranging the cassava, but inside, her heart raced. Later that evening, As she fetched water from the stream, she met Auntie Mbeki, the village's oldest widow. Known for her wisdom and sharp tongue, Auntie Mbeki rarely left her hut, except when spirits troubled her sleep. "Young girl," Auntie Mbeki called out, her cane tapping the path as she approached. Dolly bent slightly. "Good evening, Mama." The old woman said, scanning her face. "Your aura has changed." Dolly frowned. "My what?" "Something dark brushed against you recently," Mbeki muttered, gripping her cane. "You stepped into the shade of a tree you should have walked." Passed, and Dolly's blood turned cold. "I don't understand." "You do," Auntie Mbeki said. "I've seen him before, Kaloum. That's not his real name. 20 years ago, a man with that same face came to our village under a different name. Many girls were never the same after he left." Dolly's voice trembled. "What do you mean?" "He makes promises, gives gifts, then vanishes. Some say he uses spirits. Others say he works with dark charms. But one thing is sure. No girl walks away from him untouched. Be careful, Ndali." The old woman walked away, her cane dragging through the dust like a warning. That night, Ndali could no longer keep it in. She told Mama Adia everything, from the walk through the forest to the strange house and the carved lion. Mama listened, then stood and walked to the small altar by the corner. She knelt and prayed aloud. "O ancestors of the Mbulu blood, guide my daughter. Protect her from eyes that see too much and mouths that speak with two tongues." Ndali joined her mother and whispered, "What should I do?" Mama Adia looked at her with tired eyes. "You must end it before it begins. You must never return to that house. Burn whatever he gave you, and never walk alone again, even in daylight." Ndali nodded. But something told her. Kaloum was not finished with her. Yet. Days passed, and life in Mambulu village returned to its slow rhythm. Goats bleated in the mornings, drums echoed at dusk, and traders filled the air with haggles and laughter. But Ndali no longer smiled the same. Even when she helped Mama Adia sell in the market, her eyes often drifted toward the forest as if searching for shadows. She had burned the lion carving, just as her mother instructed. It sparked and cracked in the fire, sending a strange scent into the air, like rain on dry bones. That night, she dreamed of a lion chasing her through the woods, only to stop and whisper her name in Kalumi's voice. Then, one market morning, Kaloum returned. He walked in as if nothing had happened, carrying his bag of herbs and flashing that calm smile. The villagers greeted him, but not as warmly as before. Some had heard Auntie Mbeki's warning, others simply trusted their instincts. The once curious crowd now kept a careful distance. But Kaluma walked straight to Ndali's stall. "Good morning, beautiful one," he said, as if she hadn't vanished from him for days. Dolly's hands shook slightly as she arranged her tomatoes. "You shouldn't be here." "I came to apologize," he said softly. "I sensed I frightened you. It was not my intention. I just felt something between us, something rare." "There is nothing between us," she replied, louder than she meant to. The nearby stalls went quiet for a moment. Kaloum's smile didn't fade. "May I speak with you? Privately?" "No." Ndali didn't look up. "Please leave." Kaluma lingered for a few seconds, then nodded. "As you wish. But you cannot burn a connection made by fate, even if you light the whole forest on fire." He turned and walked away, vanishing behind the cluster of yam sellers. That night, Mama Adia sat with her back to the hut, weaving a basket by moonlight. "He came again?" she asked, without looking. "Yes." Mama's fingers slowed. "And he spoke to you?" "Yes." "And what did you say?" "I told him to leave." Mama tied off the end of the straw. "Good, but it may not be enough. Men like him do not go away because they are told to. They go away when their secrets are seen. Indali looked at her mother. What do you mean? Mama stood and wiped her hands. Tomorrow, go to the hills. Find the shrine of old Mzee Juma. He was once a spirit seer before he became a farmer. Tell him what you told me. Indali blinked. You believe this is spiritual? I know it is, Mama said. I felt the wind shift the night you came home from that forest. The ancestors are stirring. The next morning, Indali set off early. She wrapped her body in a loose cloth, tied her hair back, and walked past the market, past the village square, and beyond the last compound until the land began to rise. It took her 2 hours to reach Mzee Juma's compound. The old man sat under a mango tree, feeding birds from his hand. His beard was white like ash, and his eyes had the color of fading thunderclouds. He didn't speak when she greeted him. He simply raised a finger, pointed to a stool, and waited. Dolly sat, heart racing, and began to speak. She told him about Kaloum, about the house, about the lion carving, about the dreams. Mzee Juma listened in silence. When she finished, he reached behind him and pulled out a bundle wrapped in goatskin. He untied it carefully. Inside was a stone, dark, smooth, and shaped like an eye. He held it toward her and said, Look into this, and see the truth of the man who follows you. Indali leaned in, and what she saw made her gasp. Dolly stared into the dark stone, its surface smooth as river water. But as her eyes focused, the world around her seemed to vanish. The chirping birds fell silent, the mango leaves stopped rustling. Only the stone remained. Then, like smoke curling through still air, images began to form. She saw Kaloum, but not as he was in Mbulu. He wore different robes in each vision, walked through different villages, but always with the same charm, the same smile. Women followed him, young, trusting, hopeful. And every time, they vanished. In one image, a girl sat tied to a wooden bed, tears streaking her face as Kaloum stood over her, chanting in a tongue older than the hills. Another image showed him digging at night, burying something. And Dolly couldn't tell what, but the air in the vision felt heavy with death. Suddenly, she saw her own face, terrified, standing inside his forest house, and Kaloum turning toward her, but with eyes black as coal and a serpent's tongue slithering from his mouth. Dolly gasped and fell back, the stool tipping beneath her. She hit the ground, heart pounding, throat dry. Mzee Juma remained still, his eyes closed in prayer. When he opened them, he spoke in a low voice. You have seen the truth. He is not a man. He is an Odumganga, a spirit that walks in man's skin, feeding on trust, purity, and innocence. And Dolly's lips trembled. But why me? Because you shine, child. Your light drew him, and your light can destroy him. Mzee Juma stood and walked into his hut. When he returned, he held a gourd sealed with red wax and a small leather pouch tied with cowrie shells. You must go back to the forest, he said. Dolly shook her head. I can't. I won't survive. You will, he replied. But you must carry this gourd. Inside is sacred ash, gifted by the river spirits. When he reveals his true form, pour the ash on his shadow. Do not hesitate. Do not speak. Only then will his power break. He handed her the pouch. And this is your protection. Wear it around your neck and do not remove it, not even in sleep. Dolly took the items, her hands trembling. But what if I fail? Mzee Juma touched her shoulder gently. Then Mbulu will bury you before the next moon. But I don't believe you will fail. The ancestors walk with you. That night, Indali told Mama Adia everything. Mama held her tightly, tears in her eyes. You will not go alone. I will follow you from a distance. I may be old, but I still remember how to scream for the gods. Indali smiled through her fear. You always said your voice was louder than thunder. The next evening, just before the sun dipped into the forest's edge, Indali wrapped her cloth tightly, hid the gourd under her shawl, and tied the pouch around her neck. As she approached the mango tree, Kaloum was already there, waiting, smiling, holding a small basket. I knew you would come, he said. I brought you something. Indali forced a smile. I want to talk inside. His eyes flickered with amusement. Of course. They walked into the forest together, the birds going silent with every step. Behind them, hidden by trees, Mama Adia watched with tear-filled eyes and a hand clenched around an old wooden charm. Inside the house, the air was colder than before. Kalume turned, his smile fading. So, you came back to me. Indali untied the gourd. The moment of truth had arrived. Kaloum's house was darker than before, as if the walls themselves had drawn in the shadows. The oil lamp on the wall flickered violently, casting shapes that twisted and swayed like spirits, caught in wind. Dolly stood just inside the doorway, clutching the gourd beneath her shawl. Her other hand rested over the cowrie pouch around her neck, its warmth pulsing like a heartbeat. Kaloum stepped forward slowly, the basket of fruit still in his hand. You came back, he said softly. I knew you would. Destiny always pulls us together. Indali's voice trembled but stayed firm. I came for answers. Kaloum placed the basket down and smiled, but something about the smile had changed. It was stretched too wide, too perfect, like a mask hiding a face. You want truth? He asked. Then stay. Let me show you what love really looks like. He reached out for her hand, but Indali stepped back. You are not who you say you are. Kaloum blinked. Then, slowly, his smile dropped. You saw it, didn't you? He whispered. You looked into the old man's stone. Indali didn't respond. Kaloum's eyes darkened like a storm cloud swallowing sunlight. Foolish girl, he hissed. You don't know what you've brought upon yourself. The lamp flickered once, then died. Darkness fell. Dolly's breath caught in her throat. Her fingers fumbled at the shawl. Then she heard it, a low, gurgling growl, like an animal choking on its own breath. The sound came from Kaloum. Do you want to see my true face? He rasped. Suddenly, a wind rushed through the house, even though no door had opened. The walls trembled. The shadows thickened. Dolly backed away as Kaloum's shape began to shift. His skin melted like wax under a flame. His limbs stretched and snapped into angles no human should bend. His head twisted, revealing black, empty eyes and a mouth lined with jagged, rotting teeth. A long, serpent-like tongue slithered between them. And Dolly froze. Fear clutched her throat. But the pouch around her neck glowed faintly, and her mind cleared for one brief moment. Pour the ash on the shadow. She yanked the gourd from her shawl, broke the red wax with her thumb, and raised it. Kaloum lunged, claws outstretched, mouth open wide. With a shout from deep within her soul, Indali hurled the sacred ash, not at him, but at the floor, where his shadow twisted like a living thing. The ash struck the shadow with a flash of blinding white light. Kaloum screamed, a sound so shrill and hollow that the trees outside stopped swaying. His body convulsed, smoke rising from his feet, his arms, his face. The light grew until it filled the hut. Then, with a final thunderous crack, Kaloum's form shattered into dust and blew out through the cracks in the walls. Silence fell. The lamp flickered back to life. Dolly stood alone, shaking, the gourd now empty in her hand. Outside, Mama Adia burst into the house, her eyes wide. She looked around, saw the ash on the ground, the light returning, and then saw her daughter, still standing, still breathing. She ran forward and embraced her tightly. It's over, Mama whispered. You broke his hold." Indali collapsed into her mother's arms, her knees weak, but her spirit strong. Outside, the forest exhaled. The birds began to sing again. But Indali knew some scars go deeper than skin, and her journey was far from over. Weeks passed, and the forest of Mbulu returned to peace. The breeze danced through the trees again, and the villagers resumed their songs, unaware of the evil that had nearly swallowed one of their own. But in the heart of it all, Indali was no longer the same girl who once laughed freely in the market. She had survived something dark, something ancient. And though Kaloum was gone, his memory clung to her dreams like smoke on cloth. Mama Adia watched, her daughter closely, never letting her walk alone, never allowing silence to settle between them for too long. But even with all her love, she could not take away the weight Indali now carried. One morning, as the village gathered under the great baobab tree for market day, the village elder, Chief Bwana, called for attention. "We have lived too long in ignorance," he said, his voice steady. "A spirit walked among us, and we did nothing because we saw only a smile." Whispers rippled through the crowd. Dali stood at the back, hidden in her shawl. "Indali," Chief Bwana called. "Come." She froze. Then slowly she stepped forward, the entire village watching. Some faces showed concern, others shame. A few carried doubt. Dali reached the front and looked up at the elders. "What do you want me to say?" she asked softly. "The truth," Chief Bwana replied. "So our daughters will never be caught blind again." And Dali looked out at the sea, of faces, her heart pounding. But then she saw the little girls sitting near their mothers, watching her with wide, curious eyes. And her fear turned into fire. "I met Kaloum by the market," she began. "He was kind, charming. I thought he meant no harm. But that's how danger walks, softly, with a smile." She told them everything: the house, the dream, the shrine, the gourd, the monster. Gasps and murmurs followed each word, but Indali didn't stop. Her voice grew stronger with each sentence. "He is not the only one," she said finally. "There are others, men who pretend to love only to destroy. Spirits who wear the skin of friends. But the worst danger is silence. We teach our daughters to be quiet. We must teach them to speak." Tears rolled down Mama Adia's cheeks. A wave of silence swept the market, deeper than any drum beat. Then, one by one, women stepped forward. "I too met him," said an old woman. "Years ago. I thought I imagined what I saw." Another girl whispered, "He asked me to meet him. I almost went." And just like that, the shame melted. Chief Bwana raised his staff. "From this day, we build a place in this village for healing and truth. For the daughters of Mbulu to speak, to share, and to learn." The villagers cheered. Months later, Indali's Voice, a safe house and storytelling center for women and girls, opened its doors. Girls came from nearby villages to share their tales, to learn, to grow stronger. Indali taught them not only how to spot lies behind smiles, but how to trust themselves, how to listen to the warnings their spirits whispered. And every evening, she would light a small lamp at the doorway of the center, whispering the same prayer. For the ones who didn't return, and for those still finding the path home. Years passed, but her story echoed through generations. And in Mbulu, no girl ever walked into the forest alone again.